Poke the Bear is brought to you by Prize Picks.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 335, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. We got some good picks later in the show for game one, which is tonight, Wednesday night, that you should look into for sure. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I gotta tell you, I'm a little stressed, a little worried, because I am across the country. I'm in lovely Seattle right now, and I was fully expecting, before I went on this trip, the Bruins going to name a coach. I was also fully expecting them to name a coach while I was in the air on Tuesday, flying out to Seattle. And now here we are recording this podcast on, Wednesday morning out here in Seattle. But I always have the fear that this episode's going to drop, and then they're going to name the coach, and all the comments like, "You idiots, what are you guys doing?" I don't know what to tell you, man, but I thought they would be naming a coach a long time ago. So we are just rolling the dice here. And, maybe we're just willing that maybe it's going to carry on this coaching search for another day or two. Maybe it'll be Thursday the news comes, or maybe it'll be 5 minutes after we're done recording this. I don't know, but it's taken forever.
I was sure they would name a head coach while you were in the air on Tuesday. I was like, that's exactly when it's going to happen. It'll be like 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Connor will be over Montana, and that's when it's going to happen. And I was shocked it didn't. And I thought like when Cam Robinson put out that tweet, I think it was Tuesday, like at 10 p.m. of last week, that Sturm was going to be the next head coach. I was like, all right, like we're going to know tomorrow, as in like a week ago. And there's been nothing so far. The only thing was at 11:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, Anthony DeMarco of Daily Faceoff tweeted, "Sounds like the Bruins will be naming a head coach in short order. Marco Sturm continues to be a strong candidate, while Mitch Love, though, seems more tied to Pittsburgh at this point, and Jay Leach remain in the mix. Told Todd Woodcroft is not in the one. Oh, not Todd. Jay. Oh my God, I can't read. Connor, I can't read. Told Jay Woodcroft is not in the running, not Todd. Jay. Told Jay Woodcroft is not in the running. So, I mean, again, if it's Sturm, Love, and Leach, what I don't understand, and we talked a little bit about this before we came on as we were kind of venting about this whole situation. If it ends up being Sturm, what is the holdup here? If this was like, a week ago, and I know they were interviewing folks last week. They interviewed, Sturm, I believe it was like Friday. And I had heard that they would, have a decision Tuesday, likely Tuesday or Wednesday, not official, but likely Tuesday or Wednesday. Is there any chance Dallas's situation might have thrown a little wrench into things in terms of either DeBoer or Donskov?
I mean, you're trying to find any sort of factor that's playing into this, right, as to why it's taken them so long. And you do wonder if that is something that they're just kind of waiting for the smoke to clear out in Dallas, because all of a sudden, if you are a team like the Bruins and you've got these candidates like Jay Leach, like Marco Sturm, like Mitch Love, and you like them, right? You've interviewed them, I think, probably countless times at this point. You know what you kind of have in those three. But before you commit, all of a sudden, if a guy like Pete DeBoer, who may not be all that popular in Dallas right now, I would probably say. And I almost think that if there is a Dallas-centric scenario that the Bruins are waiting for, it feels like it's more of like waiting to see Pete DeBoer gets fired as opposed to like Donskov, because like you're not hearing anything. Like if like the Bruins have a press release later on today, it's like it's Misha time, which I have no idea what exactly that's going to be. Also, an important note, something that just dropped, which is not the Bruins related.
I was just about to say, we got this right now.
But Elliot Friedman just tweeted, there is word today that momentum is growing for Dan Muse to become the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So,
congrats to Dan. I talked to him a few times because he used to be the head coach of the at the NTDP for a little while. So I talked to him about many New Englanders. So good for him. Congrats to him.
And so that is something to keep tabs on, because it means, one, the Bruins are the last team standing, right, in terms of the head coach. And also, I'm sorry, I know you mentioned about DeMarco's tweet. Did he mention that Mitch Love was tied more to the Penguins?
He did say that. Connor. He did say that.
So you do, like, I go through, I feel like there's going to be a very long-winded comment for me, which is usually what I do. But for Dallas, let's go through the list. For Dallas, I think it's more of waiting to see if Pete DeBoer is actually hitting the market, because You're the only team really left, unless some other team just fires that coach thinking that Pete DeBoer's out there. So I think there is something with that as opposed to like Donskoff being a surprise candidate. I feel like you'd hear or you'd see more smoke, you'd see more rumors tied to him from other insiders, and you just really haven't heard anything. So maybe Donskoff is waiting out to see what happens with Pete DeBoer. Maybe he's just not interested in coaching the Bruins. Maybe he's not interested in stepping up to be a head coach. Or maybe the Bruins aren't interested in a guy that has no head coaching experience. All those things play into it. So for the Bruins, yes, I think you're looking at seeing what Pete DeBoer does, which feels like the most likely option. You also have to factor in that the Combine's going on and all of the team is out there. So maybe they're getting the interviews, which I think are at the start of the week, out of the way early. And then once they have testing, you can have your scouts there. You're going to have the results anyway. So maybe that's when they act on this later on this week when the testing begins.
I like the idea that Sweeney's like hustling through interviewing kids. Like, oh yeah, what's your favorite food? Okay, what's your
favorite food? Macaroni and cheese? All right, sushi, macaroni and cheese. All right, everyone's fucking saying that. Okay, bye.
You have 10 minutes. You 10 minutes for curfew. You're with a girl.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like Terry Ryan question.
Yes, it's speed running through all these things. So that is also a potential factor. And then also maybe it's this thing with Pittsburgh, right? Where maybe like you hear that Marco Sturm's the guy that, they're focusing in on, which makes a lot of sense. And I think we've talked a lot about Marco Sturm and how he'd fit here. But also maybe they also still really like Mitch Love, and maybe they're waiting to see what he decides. And if it's like
that might be what this is. Like it honestly,
and maybe it's like, all right, hey, we are offering you the job. Like, I know you also got an offer or you're interested in Pittsburgh too. Get back to us. And all of a sudden, maybe that changes things now if Mitch Love is either out of the running there and the Bruins go to him. I feel like there's the one scenario I can't see happening here is that the Bruins are literally just like sitting on these offers for 4 or 5 days now. Like, it feels like last Friday was when the last interviews wrapped up. So barring them waiting for DeBoer, it does feel like it's almost like the ball is in the court of the coaches that they've offered to see what the case is. So maybe, yeah, with Pittsburgh making their coaching call, maybe that does all of a sudden make Mitch Love another guy that's pretty viable. And I really, really like Mitch Love, but it felt like for the last week or so, the talk has been, I'd look more at Pittsburgh for that kind of guy, which if he's out of the running, then maybe the Bruins can sneak back in there. So we'll see.
What's funny is Elliot's been mentioning on 32 Thoughts recently, don't sleep on Dan Muse with the Penguins. Because like that, he's he's in player development. He was just with the Rangers. Like that might be a guy that they want to target. And obviously it is. And now you mentioned, so we initially started this with Dallas and then the Muse news broke and it's like that changes it. But
the Muse news. I do think like, if DeBoer doesn't get fired and then they opt to go after Donskoff, and again, now it's what Boston's the only team left that needs a head coach.
They're
the last team standing.
So they're the last team standing. So you really you have your choice, not so much choice, but Sturm, Love, Donskoff, if you wanted to now go after him. I don't think DeBoer is a fit for this team. I don't think DeBoer is the route that they're looking to go. DeBoer seems like a guy who comes in, gets you, tries to get you to the Stanley Cup final within 2 or 3 years, kind of wears out his welcome and then is gone. At least that's what his track record has been the last 10 years. But then, again, now Love isn't going to be in Pittsburgh. So do they now say, oh, we wanted Sturm, but we really like Mitch Love, and now it's either come to Boston or you're an assistant coach in Washington for another year, which is fine. Maybe he'd rather do that and wait, sort of like a David Carl at Denver type thing. But to me, I think this Muse news now opens up the possibility of Mitch Love, and maybe it isn't Sturm. Or we could be talking about all of this and the news breaks in 20 minutes and suddenly it's all irrelevant. But I do think that the Muse news does now put Mitch Love as someone that the Bruins would
back in the running.
Want. Yeah, I would think. And I think Jay Leach is another one that Anthony mentioned in that tweet. It's interesting because Leach is internal. He was an assistant on this staff. He was the head coach in Providence for a long time. Someone that I think the Bruins think highly of. It's going to be hard to give him the head coaching job, though, after the last year. That's going to be a tough one. To me, it feels like, and I could be wrong, this is not inside information, would he then be still an assistant? I'm curious if they would keep him on. Sacco is gone. I'd imagine Kelly would likely be gone. I mean, again, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
I would think the new coach would want a whole new head coaching staff, but I don't know. I'm curious what ends up happening with Jay Leach.
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen, right? And it could be something where you're just kind of bridging the gap. And maybe for Jay Leach, it's you're in a familiar spot and you can build up kind of your resume again, I guess, right? Where you look at how bad the defense was this past year. And yeah, there should have room for improvement, whether it's a new defensive minded head coach coming in, is what you're probably expecting between Sturm or Mitch Love, and also guys like McAvoy and Lindholm being back. Like, barring calamity, the Bruins defense should be better next year. So maybe he sticks around running the defense and builds his stock back up and eventually lands another head coaching job somewhere else if that's the case. But yeah, I do think that it's clear the Bruins, I think, are targeting a defensive-minded head coach. I wouldn't be surprised because they really, really like Jay Leach. They've liked him for a long, long time. They were not very happy when a guy loses his job. They were very happy when Dave Axtell got canned and kind of created that instability out in Seattle, because that opened the opportunity for him to get Jay Leach back here in Boston. So we'll see. And again, I think the same thing, though, with Pete DeBoer, where if there is smoke there, it would not surprise me if the Bruins look at a guy like him as, even though he's kind of viewed, right, as you said, like that win now kind of guy, he's a guy you probably wait on for, because he's been coaching, he's been to the conference finals 8 years out of like his 10 or 11 years coaching, or something like that. It's some crazy.
Yeah, still never won a cup, right?
Yeah, and like he's kind of, again, a different cut from like Montgomery, where he's kind of a hard ass. He's kind of like a more evident hard ass than like Bruce Cassidy, but also I feel like Bruce Cassidy also would kind of do the same things that like DeBoer gets ripped for, of like calling out his players and kind of like shitting on them during things, which like we loved. And like I think in Boston, it's like
never stop.
Like it's funny because like I don't agree with like how Pete DeBoer kind of doubled down and it put Andre in the bad spot. But if like that was here, and it'd be a big shit show, right? Like the media and like and radio especially would love it. They would love if he was just like, we need more from this guy. Like, yeah, we pulled him because he was playing like shit.
Be awesome for us. Are you kidding me?
I do wonder if like the Bruins view that as a guy that has the winning pedigree, can get you back on track, is a hard ass, which is different from Montgomery. And also you kind of look at where he's been, though. There's been a lot of younger players that have thrived with him. Whether you look at Dallas and like Wyatt Johnston and these kind of guys, San Jose, he was right there when like Thomas Hertl and some of these other guys were really kind of becoming more like third line to top six kind of players. Like he's kind of got a good track record that if a big fish like that all of a sudden is available, I feel like it makes sense that the Bruins are waiting. And so that's what I'm thinking, that they have a good idea of what they want to do, but I think they'd be remiss probably from their perspective if they hire a coach and then 2 days later it's like, Pete DeBoer is available, which like I think if Pete DeBoer is available, a team will literally probably fire their coach.
I was going to say
to get Pete DeBoer.
There's got to. We could sit here all day, but there's got to be teams who are sort of on the cusp. Like if Rod Brindamore wasn't in Carolina, like if it wasn't Rod Brindamore down there, like a guy who could really kind of have that job for life, and it was just some other coach and similar type of results, they'd fire that coach to bring in Pete DeBoer. Yeah, I think. And there are other, look at any franchise that gets close and can't quite get there. I mean, even if you wanted to like Winnipeg, you could even throw in there as like a team that would be like, all right, well, we need a guy that's just going to get us over the hump. Let's bring in Pete DeBoer.
Right.
So we'll see what happens with the coaching front. If anything breaks in this podcast, we will. All
I'm saying, Evan, is that
we'll talk about it.
All I'm saying is, buddy, I'm going to the zoo later on today, and if I have to do a live show from like the gorilla exhibit, God help me.
That would be awesome. I got kicked out of the monkey exhibit one time. I've told that story before, I think.
I don't think you have.
Have I not told that story when I got kicked out of the monkey exhibit?
Kicked out of the monkey exhibit? What'd you do?
At the San Diego Zoo. I didn't do anything. I was in 8th grade.
Did you beat your chest or anything?
No, I was just standing there.
The monkey. Can you say on air what?
Yeah,
did you threaten the gorilla? Did you throw like a beer at the gorilla or something? Or
like Kramer and Seinfeld, like, oh, everybody sides with the monkey. No, yes. It just kept running up again. It was just me and my sister and my family like in it because it was kind of late in the day, and the monkey, there were two of them, kept sprinting up to the glass and jumping into it wherever I was, and the zookeeper, whoever, one of the workers, politely came up to me and said, hey, I don't know why, but it seems you're upsetting the monkey. We're going to ask you to kindly leave. And I was kicked out of the monkey exhibit at San Diego Zoo. So yeah,
We saw your
me and zoos are not. We're not simpatico, I guess.
they didn't like your Mitch Marner takes. They knew it that the gorilla had the foresight of like 15 years in the future. It's like, this guy's gonna want Mitch Marner on the Bruins. I won't stand for it. Try to take you out.
Now.
It was a very primitive version of Terminator. They sent that gorilla back 15 years to try to take you out at the zoo.
That's right.
He didn't realize there's going to be bulletproof glass in front of him. He didn't think that
right.
far ahead.
Yeah, he couldn't see the glass. I will say, when the 100 humans fight the one gorilla, I'll be one of those 100 humans.
You're ready. You'll be front row like Braveheart with like the Scottish flag painted on your face.
That's right. Yeah, I will be.
I feel like we're just wasting time until the Bruins hire a coach. Let's do like a 4-hour filibuster until like news actually drops.
I'll read Green Eggs and Ham at some point.
Yes.
Anyway, our friends over at Prize Picks. Do you know ball? Because there's only one series left in the basketball playoffs, and the championship is officially on the line. That means time is running out for you to put your final takes to the test on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. This year's basketball playoffs are headed towards crowning a first-time champ in more than 50 years. Don't miss your last chance to cash in on history with Prize Picks. Pick more or less on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and more for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Today, this also applies to hockey, goals, assists, time on ice, saves, shots on goal, all that stuff. You're an expert. You want to make the games fun? You hate the Panthers? You hate the Oilers? Boom. There you go. PrizePicks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Now, there's a fun thing. Every Tuesday, PrizePicks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. I will say this, Connor. It was Tuesday night, and I was making my picks for Game 1. Sergei Bobrovsky went from, I think it was 24 and a half saves, more or less, to 20 and a half, which is huge. And obviously, I took it because I'm obviously going to take it. Friday has a similar thing. Flex Friday, make sure you opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. Choose squares from any game on the board. If your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. So, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Run your game over at Prize Picks. So, a little different from coaching. Interesting thing, and we've talked a lot about this. Bruins have about $28 million in cap space heading into this offseason, which is a lot of money. It hasn't been a long time since they had that amount of money. But there's still ways you can clear more. You can just keep burning cap space, baby.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there is more. There are three interesting players that you've highlighted to me, and I think you're right. An obvious one is Jonas Korpisalo. He makes $3 million, or at least the Bruins are on the hook for that $3 million per season. He's one. I think that's probably the obvious one. And then there's two. We've talked a little bit about this throughout the offseason. Pavel Zacha makes $4.75 million, and Casey Middlestat makes $5.75 million. So Middlestat makes about $1 million more. Korpisalo, I think a lot of people would shed for anything to try and get cheaper back there. But would you consider either of Zacha or Middlestat to shed some salary cap?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious one is probably Casey Middlestat, right? And he's kind of a tough player to grade, right? Because was probably pretty underwhelming, I would probably say, during his time with the Bruins. But he also had like Cole Koepke and like Jakub Lauko as his wingers for a significant portion of that. And so it's like you could easily make the case that if the Bruins sign Brock Besser, who's buddies, another Minnesota buddy with Middlestat together. And like if Middlestat's in a spot where he's got shot first wingers to work with, maybe he can be a 65.2C. And if that's what he can be, and the going rate is 5.75, when you look at like, hell, Brock Nelson, who looks like he's 45 years old, is signing a contract extension. Yeah, is signing a contract extension with Colorado for what, $7.5 million per year, and like
3 years.
I think that's just going to be like 2-3 years. I think, right? So, yeah, I think you look at just what there's going to be a lot of sticker shock this offseason in terms of what guys are going to get paid, and so it's almost like it's tough to gauge someone like Middlestat where. I don't like that 5.75 cap hit, but like if you're trying to replace him with a guy on the free agent market, you're going to be paying more for like a guy down the middle. Now, if you want to move Middlestat and essentially dump his contract for, I don't know, a third round pick or something like that. And I think like there would be a team that would take that offer, especially maybe a younger team that's going to give him those kinds of minutes and see what he could do. And you use that 5.75 to maybe you're able to sign, Besser and another winger, right? And you have like the cap space to do that. Maybe it works out that way. But I think you do have to gauge with a player like him whether or not you're moving on from a guy that could be good value for you if you're able to find wingers around him. Because it's like, I get that the Bruins wanted to change things up last year, and Middlestat's a different player than Coyle, different player from what they had in their system. So it made sense why they targeted young player. But then it's like the team was so bad that how much could you really glean off of what he was going to give you if you're envisioning what he could be, right?
I'm actually hesitant on all three of these. And I know that people are like, what about Korpisalo? My thing with Korpisalo, and I think you probably do have to find a way to move him and bring someone else in. But didn't we kind of learn last year that you do kind of need a capable backup behind Jeremy Swayman, someone who can play a lot of games? And if you can find that in free agency, if you can find that via the trade market, great. You do also have to consider, can DiPietro come up here and play? Can Brandon Bussey come up here and play? Bussey kind of had a tougher year in Providence than was expected, and a lot of people wanted him to be the backup this past season. So if they feel DiPietro can be a great backup after winning AHL Goalie of the Year, then awesome, great. Like I'm all for that. That's much cheaper, and goodbye Korpisalo. But if there is hesitancy, or if you get 2 months into the year and DiPietro can't handle 30 to 35 games, that's scary. That's scary. So that's my issue with that. Zacha gives you a ton of value. 4.75 million for a guy who can play the wing, who can play center, who can kill penalties, who can help your power play, who works with Pastrnak. Like we say this all the time. The middle class in the NHL is dwindling. It's like Bernie Sanders, like the wealth gap in the NHL is getting too big. But that is actually that's really happening in the NHL. Like there aren't as many guys in that middle ground. It's a lot of entry level deals, guys on prove it contracts in the bottom six, or guys making a ton at the top. And Zacha's making 4.75 million for a guy who has like an offensive ceiling of 60 points, who like at lowest is going to put up
has more 50-point seasons in his career than Sam Bennett.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. That's incredible. That's a great
Bennett has one. Sam Bennett has one, and Zacha has two.
We keep just digging. It's not. That was the Pierre LeBrun started a thread. Is not
dude.
News.
God help us if the Bruins sign Sam Bennett, because like someone's gonna find all these things. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's just not who the Bruins should be targeting. Yes.
But so and that's Zacha, and then Middlestat. I think is the most. I think Middlestat, you're clearing the most space. The end of last season was wishy-washy, but again, you hit on it. It was a bad team. I'm intrigued to see what he can bring. I'm intrigued by it. If you could get like a second round pick, then okay, yeah. But like a third, I don't know. Like I'd be curious to see what he is as a second line center next year. I also wonder if they try to put him at left wing. So I don't know. I would be hesitant on all of them. I don't want to give them away for nothing. And there better be a plan in place to fill that cap space. Like, do you trust bringing in another free agent left wing? Like if you had more money to get one over like Middlestat, maybe, but that plan better be in place. You can't just shed that and have it be nothing. Cause he is, as of right now, he's probably your second line center next year. So.
Yeah, I think it all depends, right, on just what your expectations are for next year. Because I feel like the Bruins have a lot of center options. It's just how many of them move the needle, right? And it's like,
that's the thing.
Is Middlestat actually a 65-point guy? I'm like, he could be, but maybe he's like a 41-point guy, and you're like, shit, like this guy's just not it. And then you're stuck with him for another year. And again, who knows what his trade value may not even be that high that they can't even really move him right now without like attaching a low pick or that also could play into it. Maybe we're overvaluing how other teams think of him. But I think it just comes down to what the Bruins are trying to do. Like if you're trying to really kind of play the patient game, maybe it's like you move him without really a set solution there. Like if you're moving him and then you use that money to bring in or trade for like Marco Rossi. Okay, I get it. Like younger player maybe has more upside to be your 2C. That's an upgrade. But otherwise, like, if you're moving Casey Middlestat and getting that money and then using some of it to then sign, Sam Bennett or like a veteran guy that maybe helps you out for this year, but is not part of the long-term plans, like a Matt Duchene or something like that. I don't really get that either. And so maybe you just honestly do the maybe you're expecting more of a tougher year, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're just going to put Matt Poitras up there and see what he does, right? Like maybe that's what you do, and you take that cap space and you bank it. But it all kind of depends. I don't think the Bruins are viewing this as a year where it's like, we're just going to completely develop guys. I think they want to be competitive. It's just, where does Middlestat fit into that equation? Because he could be a great value. You put, I think, talent around him, but he's not. And he's kind of just what he's been his career, which is maybe, I think he's a guy that is a useful player, but he always leaves you wanting more. I don't know if that's a guy you want to keep in place moving forward. So he's kind of really tough to read as to how the Bruins view him.
You hit on it with you have a bunch of, and we've talked about this, you have a bunch of middle six centers. You can't move Elias Lindholm. If it is Zacha and Middlestat, and you have to advance your roster, you have to put guys in place that are going to be future pieces of your core. Can Middlestat be a piece of it? I don't know if we can gauge enough off of the end of last season, but I think we can gauge enough, quite a bit off of his career so far. I mean, he had that one great season in Buffalo. Colorado, he was kind of sort of misused, pushed down the depth chart. So there's that hope that he is playing well. Now, it does also come down to who's he playing with next year. Is it Zacha on the left and Lysell on the right? Is it Zacha on the left and Brock Besser on the right? So I mean, it's got you sneezing. It's just,
I know
you're allergic to Casey Middlestat. I think you're allergic to Sam Bennett. I think it was
Sam Bennett. I think Sam Bennett is what it is.
That's exactly what it is. You want my picks? You want my picks for Wednesday night's game one?
Go for it.
Initially, I would have had, or I do have, Sergei Bobrovsky more than 20 and a half goalie saves, and Leon Draisaitl 0.5 or more points, because I think those are locks. But the Bobrovsky thing was Taco Tuesday. You have to be in on this. You have to be checking the app. You got to download it, use promo code CLNS to get that. But the one that you can do right now, at least prior to game one, Sam Reinhart, more than 1.5 shots on goal. Barkov, more than 19 minutes and 50 seconds time on ice. And Connor McDavid, 22.75 time on ice. More. Both those. So I think Barkov and McDavid are going to play a lot in game one. I think Sam Reinhart's going to have more than 1.5 shots on net in game one as well. So make sure to go use promo code CLNS. Get $50 back from Prize Picks. Just play $5. So go do that. It's fun. Makes the games more fun, interesting. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know if you're using our picks. If you're not, if you're kind of fading us a little bit, which hey, whatever works. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over at theglobeandboston.com. We've covered every step of the way, even if that means I'm doing a live video from the Gorilla exhibit. I'll do that. I'll do it for the fans. I'll do it for all you guys.
Please do. And I can't. They can't see me. I can't. I gotta be
unless maybe one's right over my shoulder though. You don't want that. So I'll see. Maybe I'll go to the other spot or something. But yes, you can read my stuff over at theglobeandboston.com. We have you covered throughout this offseason, whether it's the head coaching search, which please God have it end soon, free agency, trades, the draft, all that good stuff. You can read all of my stuff over on those two websites. If you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky, you Poke the Bear listeners. Go and have yourselves a great rest of your week.